It's Tooltip Tuesday with Little Metal Foxes. Beep, beep, beep. Hi. Hi, everybody. Here we come. It's Tooltip Tuesday with me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and
Ellen from Little Metal Foxes Down Under.
hello there. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi. Also, we are, keep an eye on our chat. So if you guys have any questions about the tooltips today, let us know. Say hello right in there and ask us
Yep, yep.
questions. Hi, Helen. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I have had a lot of questions lately about my pyrometer that I use for my kiln.
Yep.
I've got it so that I can use it with my beehive kiln as well, so I can
Mhm.
make sure when I'm casting that my kiln is up to temperature. But the new kiln has a built-in pyrometer.
Yep.
But
Mine
um,
does.
it made me think about all the thermometers and pyrometers that we have in the studio and how helpful they are. And we don't really they're one of those tools that you kind of like, yeah, I need to know how hot that is. But you don't usually either you don't have one or you don't think about some of the ones that you actually might could use. Um,
Right. So
so you've got uh, you've got a laser infrared that you use, right?
yes.
And those,
I use
how much is that?
Hive and what have you.
Yeah. What's the range on something like that on yours?
That one I think only goes up to like 12 or 1300 Fahrenheit. Actually, I have notes on that real quick.
Yeah. Take
Let
a
me,
look.
yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of the low temperature thermometers that are great to have in the studio while she's looking that up is something like this one. Hello there. And this is just a candy thermometer, and I'll show you that why that's good to have. And the
Yeah.
one is a portable pyrometer, which is a really helpful thing to have. Neither one of those is too terribly expensive. And Julia was showing us hers, which is actually for like stove,
Yeah, that one was really cool.
yeah, the stovepipe thermometer. And that is basically operates with like a spring and it has a magnet so you can stick it right on the stovepipe and it tells you how hot the stovepipe is so you don't, catch your place on fire. But she uses that for
Yeah.
bamboo, for putting on uh her resist for etching, for a bunch of other things. So that can be really helpful and that goes up to about 900 degrees. Um,
Yeah.
and it's magnetic, so you can put it like, on a frying pan, on the plate that you're doing kombu on different surfaces, just to sort of, check and see what it is, like if you're melting wax and things like that. Um,
Oh,
mine
uh,
here, and I'm going to flip over here real quick while you're looking for
yeah, sorry, I'm still
that. Yeah, let me spotlight this while you're looking.
looking. I thought
So,
maybe I didn't.
so yeah, this is just your everyday candy thermometer,
Oh,
and
mine goes up to, oh gosh. Well, the one that I have when I list it as a class supply
yeah.
will go up 2700 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ah, okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's good. That's a good range.
Pretty good range.
Yeah. So this is more of a low temperature thermometer,
Hmm.
candy or deep fry thermometer, and it goes up to about 500 degrees Fahrenheit there, but also has Celsius on the inside. And the other thing that I like about this is it has this little arrow that you can move. So, whatever your target temperature is, you can set this to where it is. And then when your needle, arrives, you can, take it off the heat or remove the heat that you're working with. But what I'm usually doing is using this for melting wax and making
Hmm.
it through, and I use it in my wax injector as well. And so I can set this where I want it to be. And when I know that it reaches that temperature, I can kind of hold it there or remove it from the heat, and that's good. The thing that's important to know about the candy thermometers and immersion thermometers like this is that they have a couple of pieces of wire that go down to the point, and as they expand, they change the thermometer at the top, the gauge at the top. So be very careful when you're working with the immersion thermometers like this that you
Oh,
don't bend them. There are some that are higher temperature thermometers that go
great.
up for like metal, and you want to be extra careful that you don't bend this shaft because that does ruin it forever and will set it permanently at like one temperature and then it won't read anything. The other one, let me get up a little higher here. This one is the pyrometer that I use with the kilns. And this one is really kind of nice. It has just a regular K-type plug-in at the top, battery operated, measures in Celsius and Fahrenheit. And you can get these from, Amazon. They're not very expensive, this one. And it goes up to a few thousand degrees, so I can measure the kiln.
Yeah.
Um, and it has the little parts at the top. So one of the things that came up, and this is one of the things that made me sort of think about that this weekend or last week was the about the pyrometers, is we were talking about the attachments, and the two screws here hold this piece in place, the um, little wires here, and those screw in on the side. And then your cables, red and blue here, screw onto the top. And she was trying to put them onto the inside and close this and couldn't get it to like latch on. And I'm like, no, no, it just screws right onto the top. These are for the bottom, and this is for these wires that extend out. So this is all ceramic
Yeah.
around the outside. And the thing you want to be careful about when if you're ordering one for your kilns is make sure that the casing or ceramic pieces around the outside are small enough to fit into any kind of like drilled hole, portal, or vent that you're going to be like sticking this into to measure the temperature. These are, you might notice that they're oval, not round. And so it may seem like, oh yeah, that's going to fit. And then you're like, why is it getting stuck? And it's like, oh, it's oval. So that was actually one of the problems that actually came up with the one that she had. And it was a little bit too big for what she wanted. Also, the other thing is, make sure you're not getting one that's too long for a small kiln. This can be, if you can't, one, if you can't get it in the kiln, you're not going to be able to measure the temperature. So make sure it's the right size for your kiln. And like I said, if it's a K-type plug-in, it's going to work on any of these little thermometers and with its pyrometer point. Um, so yeah, there you go. And Helen, have you got information about yours?
If I got information about, hold on.
About
I'm
your
sorry. I've got a lot apparently going on, as you heard.
what's
That was
going on? What's
I
going
just
on in your world?
he thought it was just us.
Say what?
My husband came through the patio and he thought it was just he was being very cute and it surprised it startled me because I
Oh,
was so concentrated on my screen I didn't see him in the background. Um, and so I'm texting him just real quick so he doesn't get, he
so,
doesn't too
so
much.
yeah, if and these are not real expensive.
Sorry.
Mine came in a two-pack, so you can get them. I got this at the restaurant supply, but you
Yeah, I mean you can get those like at the grocery store. I mean,
can store, the
hard
hardware store.
wherever, it's those are really convenient and they're great for when you really need, for like your wax and stuff because
Yeah,
that all has to be at a very specific temperature.
yeah. The
But
immersion
like
are really
the
good for
heat
stuff,
gun, I
though.
think is also really, really versatile too because like I use it on my beehive kiln to make sure I'm not melting my PMC if I'm doing a really small, glass firing. Um,
Yeah, and you can use those at the higher temperature ones that go up to a couple of thousand degrees for
yeah,
melting your metal. So on big metal pours, they're great because a lot of these can be very expensive for high temperature kilns, but or metal like to dip it, the immersion kind you dip in metal. But the laser infrared ones are really good for that because you can take the temperature of the metal and know it's at the right temperature to pour. So
yeah.
yeah. How much is something like that on
The Amazon one is because I still have it pulled up. It is about $50 US.
Oh, okay.
Um, mi- I think because mine was in the UK, I think it had a different. Maybe it was just giving me Celsius numbers and I wasn't even converting it mentally. And
Oh,
so mine may go up to, whatever degrees. But the one that I have when I list a class,
yeah.
uh, I have to turn my phone around now. Now he's being very distracting. I love my husband. Um,
Oh,
uh, uh,
yes. So
okay.
you can clip these on the side of your your melting pot too, which is kind of nice. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So like, okay, so we had talked to have been on Instagram where, like you can get some kilns with with a pyrometer built in and some without. So your cheaper ones are not going to have that digital controller, and
Right.
so they're not going to have the built-in pyrometer generally.
Right.
So that's what you need to look out for. So just FYI, that there's a reason why a kiln will be like 500 to $1,000 less than the same model that's got a
Yeah.
control because
Yeah.
that's the
And you can
control.
buy a separate, and we talked about this in one of the other tooltips when we were talking about kilns, but if you have one that has a built-in, controller that can run your programs and keep track of your temperatures for you, those range from, 500 to $5,000 just depending on how much programming you need for
Yeah.
film. But you can buy those separately and add them on. But for like a small kiln that doesn't have something like that, that just has a knob, something like this can be a solution, and this is right around 50 bucks as well. So, but like I said, just make sure that this you can, like my kiln has a vent in the top. I can stick this in the top of the kiln, and it only goes in so far, so it's not like, in the way or hitting bottom. Um,
Yeah.
so that can be really important. But just see, check your kiln if it's got some of them have like the peak hole in the front, some of them have them on the side, some of them have the vent on the top. And you just
Yeah.
want to make sure that this is, small enough that it can fit into that hole. And you can get different and replacement pyrometers, to drop
Yeah.
in. So.
Yeah, and it's much easier to replace one of those than the built-in ones.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll tell you, one of the really good reasons to have one of these is if you are, using something like a beehive kiln, if you're using something like a kiln that you're not sure the temperature's right, and you want to just sort of um, kind of get a better feel for what your kiln is going up to, having something like this can give you that. But the
Hmm.
other thing that's a really good way when you're working with kilns, especially, and you can get them from ceramic supply places, are cones. And
Yes.
the cones are like a ceramic and they melt at different temperatures. And so you'll see they usually have like 4 or 5 cones on them. And as they start to drop and melt, it indicates what temperature the kiln is at. So
Yeah.
you can, use that to sort of
Like,
keep it at that temperature. As like the number 3 cone melts, and those have different temperatures associated with what the melting point of those cones are. So, using a ceramic, measuring device for that instead of a instead of the digital or analog style can be really good. But I do like having one like, and I'm going to go get one like Julia's, that is the magnetic surface kind,
yeah.
because if you're worried about like the outside of your kiln, if you're worried about what the wall temperature is around it, they're really
Yeah.
kind of nice to be able to just judge that outside temperature as well as the surface temperature of stuff, so those can
Yeah.
be good safety.
My bigger kiln is not built like the Paragons,
Right.
and so I was always curious about how hot it got on the outside when I was doing a glass firing. I mean, it was like, I mean, yes, you don't want to touch it. It's 500 degrees Fahrenheit, but I was surprised that it was that low considering, yeah, cattail. Um,
Considering the inside was a couple of thousand. Yeah, yeah. But hot enough to bake cookies on. So,
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but the Paragon, I mean, it was like the heat. It's so well contained
yeah,
that I can. I mean, I won't, but I can have stuff really close to it. I mean, it barely got hot on the outside.
Yeah,
It was,
this
I
one
was impressed.
under the bottom half of it doesn't get hot at all. I was able to right after I got done firing, uh, doing casting a couple of weeks ago. I needed to kind of get the kiln moved over from here to there, and I was like, oh, it's warm around the top, of course, because heat rises, and that's where the kiln elements and everything are. So it was a little bit warmer up
Yeah,
there.
where
But the bottom half of that, the back, the sides,
yeah,
yeah, was not
yeah,
hot. So there's enough insulation and venting around it that it just keeps it nice and cool. So, but those can be very helpful, the magnetic ones that kind of stick them on surfaces just to, double check and make sure you're not
yeah.
getting
You
hot.
know, it's getting too hot when the magnet stops working.
That's true. That's when your steel is done. So, oh my, that's too hot.
I don't know what the temperature is. I bet Julia does, but
Yeah.
I know that magnets stop working at a certain temperature. So,
When your steel is annealed. When the steel's annealed, your magnet stops working. It's
oh, is
just
that really that's what it is?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that, yeah, so for temperature checking, magnets actually work really well, because they actually do in like blacksmithing studios. And if you've ever watched like Forged in Fire, some of those guys have magnets that they will like test their steel with, and it's like, okay, all right,
Huh?
it's not magnetic, and so they can forge it out when it gets up to that temperature. And
Yeah,
then, once they quench it, they'll test it with a file to see if it sounds
yeah.
like glass. So, when you're tempering and annealing steel to work with, that's a magnet is a really good indicator of your heat. So
So
there you go.
cool. I didn't know they actually employed that on a regular basis.
They do. They do. All right. Well, everybody, if you have a different kind of thermometer and or pyrometer in your studio that you find helpful, put it in the comments below and make sure to, ring the bell, hit the like button. Did you hit the like button? Or do you like us? Hit the like button. And check out all of our other tool tips, and because we have hundreds of them now.
Yeah.
So check it out if you have questions about a topic that's not one of the things we've already talked about. Let us know, because we're always happy to talk about, and share information about how to work in the studio, some inexpensive, time-saving workarounds that are not out of the realm of possibility and actually make your studio more efficient. So there you
And
go.
if you haven't figured it out by now, we actually really like talking about tools.
We do. It's true. It is true. Yeah. So, and sometimes people surprise us. They're like, "Oh yeah, I use a blah blah blah." And we're like, oh, "Brilliant!" So yeah, let us know. Um,
Yeah.
and check out our Instagram because we're over there too,
Yeah.
and all of our
Yeah.
classes. All right, Helen. Thanks
Okay.
everybody, and